Working in tech was no cakewalk, but I'd always been proud of my job at Bytestream Solutions. My projects were solid, my colleagues were decent, and I liked being the one people turned to when something went wrong. That's why it hit me like a gut punch when Diane, our department head, strutted into the office one Monday morning with news that would send ripples of dread through the company. "We'll be downsizing," Diane announced in a tone that was more smug than empathetic. Her sharp pencil skirt and power blazer radiated corporate dominance. Hard decisions must be made. The office became a pressure cooker of anxiety. People whispered in hushed tones, scanning each other's faces for signs of relief or doom. I threw myself into my work, hoping my spotless performance record would shield me from the axe. On Friday my turn came. "Alex," Diane said, poking her head out of her corner office. A word. The walk to her desk felt longer than usual. I could feel eyes on me, co-workers averting their gazes like I was a walking obituary. Diane motioned to a chair opposite her and closed the door, sitting down with a grin that could make a crocodile envious. "Let's not beat around the bush," she said, leaning back in her ergonomic throne. "You're the first to go in this downsizing effort." My stomach sank. "But my performance." "Not the point," she interrupted, her grin widening. "It's purely financial. You're just expendable. Nothing personal." "Nothing personal?" Diane delivered the news with the enthusiasm of someone announcing they'd just upgraded their flight to first class. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "But I've spearheaded 3 of our biggest projects this quarter." "Surely." "Alex, it's done," she said, folding her hands in mock sympathy. "Better luck next time." Dismissed with a grin and a patronizing pat on the shoulder. I spent the afternoon clearing out my desk, feeling every bit the fool for believing loyalty and hard work mattered. As I packed my things, Diane sauntered past, her high heels clicking like nails in my coffin. "Don't forget to return your badge on the way out," she said, not even looking back. If Diane thought she'd crushed me, she had another thing coming. As I walked out of Bytestream Solutions, my anger crystallized into resolve. The humiliation was temporary, but Diane's arrogance? That was a permanent target waiting to be dismantled. Little did she know the game had just begun. That weekend, I turned my home office into a war room. Papers, sticky notes, and printouts littered my desk as I dissected every interaction, email, and project involving Diane. If she thought I'd go quietly, she didn't know me at all. At first, I wasn't sure where to start. Diane was slick. Her ego aside, she wasn't the type to leave incriminating evidence lying around. But arrogance like hers often comes with blind spots, and I knew exactly where to look. Expense reports, project logs, and email chains. It didn't take long to find something interesting. An expense report showed Diane billing the company for a series of executive meetings at a high-end steakhouse. Curious, I checked the project budgets tied to those expenses. Turns out, the meetings weren't with clients, they were with her friends, judging by the email chain I uncovered. That was just the appetizer. While digging through my personal backups, always keep backups, people, I found an old email thread where Diane adjusted the numbers on our team's performance metrics before sending them to the board. She'd inflated her contributions while downplaying everyone else's, especially mine. At this point, I needed backup. I reached out to some former colleagues who'd also been victims of Diane's so-called leadership. One of them, a sharp data analyst named Rachel, had been fired under suspicious circumstances months earlier. Rachel was eager to help. "I've got dirt on her," Rachel said during a video call. "She manipulated KPIs for 2 quarters straight to make her projects look profitable." Another ex-colleague, Miguel, added more fuel to the fire. "She pressured me to approve vendor contracts without proper review," he said. I refused, and guess what? 2 weeks later, I was on the chopping block. Piece by piece, the puzzle came together. Diane had built her career on lies, covering her tracks by throwing people like me under the bus. The final piece of the puzzle came from a company-wide server backup I'd saved before leaving, a treasure trove of emails that included correspondence with HR, where Diane had explicitly targeted high-salary, non-critical employees, her words, for downsizing. Armed with a mountain of evidence, I consulted with an employment lawyer. He was blown away by the extent of Diane's misconduct. "This is gold," he said. "Not only is it enough for whistleblowing protection, but it could also lead to an investigation into the company's practices. Are you ready for this?" "Ready?" I replied, a grin spreading across my face. "I've been waiting for this." By Monday morning, I had submitted a detailed dossier to HR and the board of directors, outlining every shady move Diane had made. I sent it anonymously, of course, but with enough detail to ensure they'd take it seriously. The groundwork was laid. Now all I had to do was wait. You said. Diane had always walked the office like a queen surveying her kingdom, her heels clicking against the tile as if she owned the place. By Tuesday morning, though, whispers started swirling, subtle but persistent, like the buzz of a hornet's nest before an inevitable sting. "Did you hear about the investigation?" whispered Greg, the IT guy, over coffee in the break room. "What investigation?" came the reply. "All I know is HR and legal are holed up with the board. And Diane's name keeps coming up." I almost felt bad for not being there to witness the growing storm. Almost. At my new job, secured with glowing references from everyone who wasn't Diane, I couldn't help but check LinkedIn and Slack messages from old colleagues. It was clear my dossier had hit its mark. HR had opened an official review, and Diane was blissfully unaware she was at the center of it. That Friday, the board called a mandatory meeting for the entire company. Diane, still confident, strutted into the conference room like she was untouchable. From my desk at my new company, I got a front row seat via texts and Slack updates from friends still in the trenches. "OMG, Diane looks so smug," Rachel texted. "She has no idea." The meeting started innocuously enough. General updates, the usual corporate fluff. But then HR stepped in. "We're addressing allegations of misconduct," said Marcy, the head of HR. "This includes financial irregularities, falsified reports, and unethical personnel decisions." Diane's grin faltered, but she quickly regained her composure. "This is news to me," she said with a fake laugh. "Then perhaps you'd like to explain these documents," Marcy replied, gesturing to a stack of folders. My favorite part? Those folders contained the evidence I had submitted, complete with receipts, emails, and annotated timelines. According to my inside source, Diane stammered, blustered, and even tried to accuse the team of fabricating the evidence. But the board wasn't buying it. "She's imploding," Miguel messaged me. "This is gold." To add to her humiliation, the board announced an external audit and placed Diane on immediate administrative leave. Her face reportedly turned redder than a Texas sunset. But the real kicker? That same afternoon, I walked into ByteStream Solutions' office, not as an employee but as a representative of my new company, which had just signed a lucrative partnership deal with them. When Diane saw me, her jaw practically hit the floor. "Alex," she muttered, struggling to maintain her composure. "I didn't realize that I'd land on my feet?" I finished, my tone dripping with faux politeness. "Well, here I am. Looks like we'll be working together, well, for now at least." Her eyes narrowed, but she didn't have a leg to stand on. I shook hands with the board members and left the office knowing Diane's reign of terror was crumbling. The perfect strike wasn't just about taking her down, it was about showing her that I wouldn't be crushed. And the final blow was still to come. "You said." By the following Tuesday, Diane's downfall was the talk of the office. The board had been thorough in their investigation, and the external audit had turned up even more skeletons in Diane's closet. Misappropriated funds, falsified reports, unethical terminations. It was a laundry list of corporate malpractice. Diane's administrative leave had been upgraded to a full suspension. Rumor had it she was furious, calling anyone who would listen, trying to spin the narrative in her favor. But the evidence was airtight, and the board was done listening to her excuses. On Tuesday morning, I had another meeting scheduled at ByteStream Solutions as part of my new company's partnership deal. When I arrived, the tension in the air was palpable. Employees darted around like nervous mice, and hushed conversations filled the hallways. As I walked past the main conference room, I caught a glimpse of Diane sitting at the head of the table, flanked by 2 HR representatives and a corporate attorney. Her usual confidence was gone, replaced by a mask of barely contained fury. "Perfect timing," Rachel texted me. "They're giving her the boot today." Sure enough, an hour later, Diane emerged from the conference room, her face pale and her steps unsteady. A security guard followed close behind, carrying a cardboard box that I assumed contained her personal items. The ultimate humiliation came when she tried to exit through the lobby. A reporter from the local business journal had somehow caught wind of the scandal and was waiting to snap a picture. The flash of the camera illuminated Diane's despair for everyone to see. I stepped aside as she stormed past, her eyes briefly meeting mine. "You?" she hissed, her voice venomous. "Me," I replied with a calm smile. "Funny how things work out, isn't it?" She muttered something under her breath and disappeared through the revolving doors, never to darken ByteStream's hallways again. In the aftermath, the company announced sweeping changes, including stricter oversight and a renewed commitment to ethical leadership. As for me, I flourished at my new job, where my contributions were appreciated and rewarded. One day I received a message from Rachel. Guess who's working at a no-name consultancy now? Diane. Karma's a beautiful thing. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Revenge isn't about petty satisfaction. It's about justice, about standing up for yourself when others think they can walk all over you. And as I sat at my new desk, reviewing a fresh partnership contract, I realized Diane's grin from that fateful Friday meeting was nothing but a fleeting smirk in the face of my resolve. Justice served. The end.